Welcome, everyone, to the SoxProspects.com podcast, the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I'm the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I'm joined, as always, by our director of scouting, Ian Kundle. Ian, I guess I probably should have asked you this before we started recording, but what did I miss? Well, I was gone in France. Anything?
No. We
Okay.
switched to Reds prospects because I only want to watch Ellie De La Cruz highlights. That's what.
Only want to see him hit 450-foot bombs.
Yeah. So we're a Reds prospect podcast now. So
what we were talking about, how is the negotiation going? Is there any update on the negotiation for the ball?
No, I stopped looking.
Okay.
I mean, the kid shouldn't give it. Those offers are terrible usually.
Yeah.
Like if you catch a meaningful home run, I feel like you have to hold out for something good.
What would your counter offer be?
If I was that kid,
yeah,
I would want.
And they made some low ball offer, and you wanted to make a
season tickets for life in good seats.
Stop it. Realistic counter offer.
For that ball, that's a realistic offer in my opinion. That ball's going to go for like mid 5 figures, I think, if it hit the auction market.
Like if it hit the auction market right now.
Yeah, there's so much hype with De La Cruz right now.
He's not even the number one prospect in baseball.
Yes, he is. He's Baseball America's number one prospect. Yeah.
They have him above Churio.
Yeah, Churio's not been good this year.
He hasn't?
No.
Interesting. Fair enough. Well,
Ellie De La Cruz is a human highlight reel. Like the hype
sure.
that he brings is that ball will go for a lot of money.
It'll go for a lot of money. I think mid 5 figures is, I mean, like if you're investing in holding on to it for a decade to get that money.
Well, no, yeah, you have to be a massive Reds fan who, if you have a massive Reds fan who has a ton of money, I would 100% buy that if I was them. That'd be a sweet keepsake to have. He could be like the future of your organization right there.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, to me, it's like, I mean, I guess it depends on who, right? But it's like, give me a signed bat, give me a signed glove.
Yeah, but that doesn't. That has. But the point is, though,
but
the point is, though, like none of that has the intrinsic value. It's not like he's gonna like they're not gonna give you the bat he used to hit the home run. They're not gonna give you his glove from like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a bat they grabbed off the rack. It's a glove versus the ball that was his first ever home run. That's an extremely collectible item, especially if you're a big Reds fan.
It is. I don't know. For me, it's just like, I'm not saying you should just give the ball back. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination, but to me, it's just like, give me a good story. Give me, like I said, I want to meet the guy. I don't want to just give it to some intern.
Yeah, but if you're like a 16-year-old kid or whoever that looks about the age of the kid who caught it, like I'm pretty sure you'd have a different viewpoint if someone was going to say, hey, you can get, even $20,000 for this versus like a picture with someone and a signed bat. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
That's a pretty big difference depending on where you are in your life.
Sorry if y'all can hear the ice water in the background. I'm in DC and I cannot breathe right today. It's the air quality is just abysmal. My throat is garbage right now. So at any rate, well, we've got a lot to talk about. It's been a bit of a break, so thank you all for bearing with us. A lot has happened. We've got promotions to talk about. We've got injuries to talk about. We've got rankings to talk about. Short season ball has started. It started this week. So we got to talk about the Florida Complex League and Dominican Summer League rosters. We got some other transactions. And as always, your emails. But first, if you want to support the show, there's a few ways you can do that. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell someone you're complaining to about the air quality in your neighborhood. Rate and review us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen. And you can support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. It's a great way to give a certain amount per episode and get some neat perks. Finally, of course, send your emails, those emails I mentioned, to podcast@SoxProspects.com because we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. And hopefully what you want to hear about is about 3 weeks worth of stuff. I would say maybe let's start with promotions news. Ian, does that sound right to you? Versus like rankings? Or should we just start as rankings as a way to get into the system and talk about the promotions as they come up?
No, let's just do promotions. Oh, right. I think that's a bad way to do it, but
okay. Fair enough. I guess the big one and the most not big one, but the most recent one, because the big one happened lower in the system. But let's go from top to high minors to low. Nah, screw it. The
just
big
do
one
it
is Marcelo.
Yeah.
I mean that's not how I have them written. Let's just start with Marcelo Meyer.
Sure.
Because that's the big one, is Marcelo Meyer getting the promotion to Portland. Not terribly surprising, Ian. I thought they might wait maybe another week or so, but I do think there was a little maybe bit of what's now no longer true, some, pressure in that infield to be getting Brian Urbonasi and Edinson Paulino more middle infield reps and getting them some reps at short. But in all, he was hitting pretty well in Greenville, especially, he had that one hot week in what's the bandbox? Myrtle?
Asheville.
Asheville. Thank you. But in Greenville this year, in total, he finishes with like 200 and nearly 250 at bats, 280 plate appearances in Greenville, which is about right. It's usually 250 to 300. So it's about right. His line this year in Greenville was 290, 366, 524 in 35 games. So he was due. He's ready for Portland. And of course, he went out to Portland and went like for his first 12 or something.
Yeah, probably. Sounds right.
Then,
Homer
he's been
tonight.
good since. Yeah, he only had hit his first double A bomb tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, he'll get there.
Lefty too.
That's fine.
First one of the year.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Yeah. And against lefties in Greenville this year, because I've got that right here.
6 for 24 with 2 doubles.
I have 6 for 22.
They're probably 2 at bats today then.
Oh, it's 6 for 24 total. I was looking at Greenville before he got promoted. He was 0 for 2 so far in Portland. But I mean, in Greenville, he was 273, 346, 364. So not a lot of pop, but and 33% K rate, which isn't great. But yeah, bomb against the lefty tonight in Double-A. Love to see it. I mean, the big question everyone had is timeline, and I think he's on track for late next year. That sound right to you?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely exciting when someone, he kind of forced his way a little. I would have guessed probably like July 1st, maybe a month later.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the way he was playing, and there was obviously room up in Portland. There's no one stopping him from playing shortstop at Portland when they promoted him.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts him, it puts him on a timeline where we'll see how this season plays out. I wouldn't rule out him getting to Worcester, especially if the Worcester season. Well, I know the Worcester season goes like 2 weeks longer than the other ones.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's
if
true.
Portland,
he'll probably get called up for that. That's a good point.
But Portland's probably going to make the playoffs, looking at the standings. So,
oh yeah, they've been kind of a unit, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. They're like 35 and 19 or something. So
although not having Drohan anymore,
right? So we'll see what happens. But if Portland makes the playoffs, that could kill that. But if they don't, I think he will probably go up for those last couple of weeks in Worcester. Mm-hmm. You look towards him starting in Worcester next year and potentially making up at some point in 2024. And yeah, I think it's right on track. I think that everything he was doing at Greenville was encouraging. He's got a lot, as I think Alex Spears talked about. His bat speed has gotten better. With the programs they have him on, he's definitely gotten stronger. He's hitting the ball harder. He's hitting it harder more consistently. There's still some things to iron out with the approach and kind of consistency at the plate. And then, as you said, like facing left-handed pitching. But yeah, it's all good news to see him up there, and it makes a Portland team even more exciting than it already was.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the big headliner. The other kind of, I guess, headliners, the Major League debut this evening of Chris Murphy. Murphy, who I literally missed this one. Recently moved to the bullpen in Worcester. He was just really struggling in that rotation. And I think the other part of it is just the depth thing. It's a weird situation where the Red Sox, their starting pitching depth, and I mean, since we yeah, I mean, I was happy to see that they then moved Cutter Crawford back into the rotation instead of moving those other guys back. But I think that the reason a lot of people thought that they were just going to jettison Corey Kluber. And I think the reason that they haven't is that their starting pitching depth is in the major leagues right now. It's not in AAA.
Well, yeah, but it's weird though that they're using him in 1 inning stints, so he really can't start right now if he was to get moved back as the starter. Like his last couple of outings have all been Kluber. In relief, his outings have all been 1 inning.
I think they're seeing if he can play out better in that role too.
But there's just like, as you said, when he got called up, I know some people weren't thrilled because of his numbers. And I mean,
Chris Murphy.
Yeah, they had no one else to call up. Like the options were him, Walter, him or Walter, because Sheriff was just optioned, so he wasn't available.
Right.
And
Because it's not for an IL move.
at the time, or it was already on the roster. So like the only options were him or Walter, and Walter's been just had similar struggles to Murphy. But I think the biggest separator was kind of that Murphy had just had his first outing in the bullpen and looked really good. And, you know, in the bullpen, his stuff just seems to play a lot better. Like I tweeted about it, but I looked at like his game logs from his most recent start, or his most recent bullpen outing, or his only bullpen outing, I guess. And then his 2 previous starts, went back a little further.
Yeah, that was a great tweet.
But like he clearly changed stuff. Like his fastball velocity jumped 2 miles an hour, and
usage was way different.
Yeah, he went from being like fastball in the 40s, slider and changeup in the 20s, curveball around 10, to fastball almost 50, slider over 30, changeup closer to 10. Like he became
that's percentage of usage.
Yes, saying. Correct. Yeah. So he went from basically like a 4-pitch guy to a 2.5 pitch guy. And it worked well for him. And then you look at what he did tonight in relief. He had a pretty good outing. I think he threw 2 1/3 innings or something tonight. Threw 54 pitches, 52% fastballs, 30% sliders. Same thing. About 80% of his pitches were fastballs and sliders. Then you mix in a couple curveballs and some changeups. And same thing. Velo was again around 94.5 compared to, for the season, he was averaging 92.2. So the stuff just plays better in the bullpen. His limitations aren't as obvious in that role. You know, the big thing with him is fine because of his command struggles, just like working deep into games is problematic for him. You know, he's not a very efficient pitcher. He uses a lot of pitches to get through those first couple innings, especially if he's struggling. So in a bullpen role, I kind of like it. I think the stuff plays up, and I think it just fits him as a profile better.
In the line tonight, it was actually 3 1/3, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 5 Ks.
Yeah, like that's what he should be. Like about a 3-inning pitcher is what I'd like to see from him. Like a true like bulk reliever. Like that's the best way to maximize his stuff, because he can be basically you can be a 2-pitch guy doing that, as we've kind of talked about extensively with Tanner Houck.
One time through the order. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was encouraging to see him, and I'm interested to see what they do with him, because I honestly don't hate keeping him up on the big league club. I think he's going to get an option for whoever's going to start on Thursday.
I mean, game. They said it's non-roster, and Matt Dermody, the guy who's been up. Yeah, so it seems like it's going to be Dermody, and it's going to be a 1 start and then DFA.
But I assume Murphy's going to get optioned for that, because he just threw in a 3 1/3 today. Like,
yeah, it screams. Thanks, you're up to wear the rest of this one, kid. Enjoy the shuttle back to Worcester.
Yeah. So, but I mean, he threw well, and I definitely think we'll see him again at some point this season.
Yeah, and then Dermody's going to come up, and he's going to get DFA'd immediately to open the 40-man spot for Adam Duvall on
Friday. So he'll start Thursday, and then it'll probably be Dermody. We don't know for sure, but it's going to be.
It's going to be Dermody.
Yeah.
And just in case everyone was wondering, it's because of the rain out, which then led to a doubleheader. The rain out heading into a doubleheader and no off day on Monday meant they needed someone for Thursday. I'm just curious, what do you do with that spot? You can't call Ort back up yet.
What?
Are they going to for Friday in the bullpen spot, or because you're DFAing Dermody, unless they can't option him because they need to get him off the 40.
Is it 10 days or 15 days?
10 days. Would that be 10 days for Ort, or can Sheriff come back at that point?
It definitely wouldn't be for Ort,
because it wouldn't be for Ort because he went down for Murphy. Would Sheriff be able to come back up?
Sheriff went down on the. We don't have it here. Oh yeah, we do. The 4th, so it'd be the 11th. So he could come back on Saturday.
Come back on the
Sunday, because the 10th is Saturday.
So what are they going to do for 2 days?
Brandon Walter?
No, the 14th is next Wednesday, dude.
You said 10 days.
Yeah, and he went down on the 4th.
I thought I said the 1st. Oh, it was the 4th.
It's the 4th.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't know.
It's got to be Walter, doesn't it?
You would think,
unless someone's getting activated from the IL.
Well, no, because Joely Rodriguez just went on it. Blyer hasn't even thrown.
Blyer's going to need a rehab,
and Schreiber same thing. So I actually don't know. Yeah, wait, what are they going to do?
Let's tweet this right now, because if they send down Murphy to add tomorrow's starter, right?
And Murphy's the one yeah, huh? I mean, maybe they don't DFA.
I mean,
no,
they put it this way, because they
DFA
need
Dermody though.
Because they need to keep 13 hitters.
Right. And
Or is the move, do you need to keep, I guess they could, are they going to go 12 pitchers?
Maybe. Yeah.
Until Sheriff can come back? Because that's the other question is when you activate Duvall, who goes down?
But the problem with that is there's not a position player to activate. I'm literally looking at it. There's not a 40-man roster position player on the Worcester roster right now. The only guys
no,
there are rehabbing.
No. Friday, Duvall is coming back.
Right, but I'm saying that when
Duvall's coming back, and I'm saying would they go 14 hitters, 12 pitchers until Sheriff can come back?
Yeah, I guess that's probably what they do.
Because it's either that or Walter.
Yeah. So I would guess they
wild.
I would guess they just go 14, 12. Yeah.
Because they already have a weird situation where it's not terribly obvious to me, at least, what they do when Duvall comes back.
Oh, right? It's to me. It's very obvious to me. I think that Kike Hernandez and Jarren Duran become bench guys.
Right. No, but I'm saying who gets sent down.
Oh, no. Sorry. Who gets sent down?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's going to be. It'll probably be. Yeah, that actually is tricky. I would.
Is it not Duran?
It's probably Duran.
And it's like if it's Duran, why didn't you just do that instead of DFAing?
Is it Pablo Rey? Oh no, it's Valdez. It's Valdez.
It's Valdez. You think it's Valdez?
Oh, it's 100% Valdez. Yeah, no, it's 100% going to be Valdez. I'm dumb. It's definitely going to be Valdez.
Okay, because the thing is, if it's Valdez, then you're playing Reyes more at second, or I guess you're playing Reyes at short always, and you're moving Kike around.
Yeah, it'll be Valdez. It's 100%.
And because Duvall's your center fielder.
Yeah.
And so Kike gets pushed back to the middle infield.
Yeah, and they'll probably want him more at second. Yeah, it's going to be Valdez. The pitching thing is interesting, though. It seems like, the only thing that makes sense would be going 14-12 unless you're going to... Unless you're going
to Walter.
Yeah.
And you just delay the Valdez move
or you just don't,
another week.
Or you just don't option Murphy and you sent. Oh wait, you can't.
Well, they've said tomorrow's starter isn't on the 40-man.
And I was about to say you can't send down Valdez for Barry or for
no, because you need 13 pitchers.
Because you need 13 hitters. So
yeah,
it's interesting. Well, it'll be interesting. We probably should have waited to discuss.
We probably should have discussed this instead of discussing it live on the pod. But whatever. Hey, it's fine.
It's going to be an interesting. I'm interested to see what they do with that roster mechanism for a few days.
By the way, they DFA'd Raymel Tapia. Whatever, great. Cool. Like
not
for the
surprising.
People freaking out about it, it's Raymel freaking Tapia. Like,
he's not a good defender. He's okay defender.
Okay defender. He's a good pinch hitter. Fine, whatever. Like, I'm not convinced that that's a big enough sample size for it to be a provable skill.
He's got a poor approach. He struggles against lefties. Like, it wasn't a piece that made sense on the Red Sox roster right now.
Yep. Especially where it looks like they're ready to just roll with Duran as a bench player, which is really interesting. I get it. I think I don't like, there are people who are like, oh, he needs to go play every day. Like, at this point, why does he need to play every day?
He might just be, I think the bigger thing of why they want him up there though, is because they don't have any speed otherwise. Like he's with the way the rules are, you want a speed guy, and having him on the bench is like a potential pinch runner, late inning replacement, especially since his defense has been solid this year.
Exactly.
He makes a lot of sense.
He kept himself on the roster by improving his defense. It has nothing to do with how he's hitting. He's up there because he
hasn't hit at all for a few months either. Right. So yeah.
Well, not a few months.
Sorry, a few weeks.
A month. Yeah, like a few weeks. Yeah.
Do you know Connor Siebold has a no-hitter going right now? In Colorado too.
Out of here. It's been a week for former Red Sox pitchers. Frank Herman got DFA'd and optioned.
I didn't think you were going there. I thought you were going to say it's been a month for them because Waka and Eovaldi won the.
That too, but I mean, like Brazier signed with the Dodgers.
Yep.
Los Angeles Dodgers. Kyle Hart signed a minor league deal somewhere. I don't remember where, but he did. Anyway, yeah. Other promotions, Ian. They're mostly small, so we don't really need to spend a ton of time on them. Getting promoted from AA to AAA, Christian Koss and Theo the Blacksmith Denlinger, ground ball machine, and from AA to AAA. That AAA bullpen has left a lot to be desired. I think we're going to see more AA to AAA bullpen promotions in the coming month.
I would like to. I think that the guys who have the chance to help the MLB team are all in AA right now. I would be very surprised if Luis Guerrero and Ryan Fernandez are in AA by the end of the month. Yeah. I mean, I like it's tough because I've seen both of them. Actually, I still haven't seen Fernandez. But I've talked to people who have seen him, and I've seen Guerrero several times this year. And it's weird because with Guerrero, he's not missing as many bats as he used to.
No, he's
Like
not
his
dominant.
no, but he's also not giving up hits.
He gets the
Like
job done, but he's not been as dominant.
his splitter hasn't been as consistent. I think that's been the biggest thing. Like last year, it looked like a true like plus to better pitch. This year, it's been like more of a 50 because he's really struggled to land it in the zone. I think Fernandez is probably the one who would get that call first as a result.
Yes, agreed.
Like
Agreed.
he's been
Well,
he's
just
been
based on time at the level too.
yeah. But like Guerrero, I mean he doesn't give up any hits, but he's 16 walks, 16 strikeouts. That's a lot
Mhm.
of walks. And he's, as I said, only 16 Ks in 23 innings. So yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see who follows Denlinger. I think Denlinger makes sense though too, because he wasn't giving up any hits. Like it's a really heavy fastball.
Yeah.
I don't think there's as much upside with him as some of the other guys.
No, but I mean the thing too is it's like it's not a lot of he's a ground ball guy. He's a sinker guy. He's not a strikeout guy. And I
He's
think
like a
he had a
sinker
ground
cutter
ball
two
rate.
seam. Yeah.
He had a ground ball rate in like the 60s or something. Like crazy for the first 2 months of the year. So it made sense. Get him up to Portland to Worcester, see what he can do. Strike while the iron is hot, if you will. Huh? Huh? The
No,
iron?
absolutely not.
No, okay. Speaking of bullpen arms, I guess the arguably the at least the best strikeout, not arguably, literally the best strikeout pitcher in the system so far this year is Christopher Troy. He went from Greenville to Portland. Has a lot of walks, but most of them were in his first 5 outings. He kind of had righted the ship a bit, moved up to Portland.
Yeah, in May he only had one walk.
Yep. Also moving up from Greenville to Portland are starting pitcher Grant Gambrell and reliever Joe Jones. But I want to focus on Gambrell, who did not go to the University of Michigan. In fact, even though for some reason I thought he had. Yeah, Gambrell. Interesting story. So he basically missed. Well, not basically. He
did
not missed. Yeah, sorry, he had not pitched. He was acquired from he was a Royals guy, right? In the Benintendi trade. Yeah, because the Mets guys are the guy we're going to talk about in Winkowski. Gambrell came over, made a few starts, and then hadn't pitched since August of like 2021.
Yeah.
Missed all of last year, missed most of 2020, missed all of August and September of 21. Is back in Greenville, and it apparently came out that he had like 5 surgeries to fix a tumor in his foot or his ankle.
In his heel bone. He had 5 tumors in his heel bone. And he said he first started feeling discomfort in 2020, and they couldn't figure out what it was. Obviously, he went to the Red Sox. He had a couple of bad starts. He had an MRI in August, and but the MRI was clean, so they had a CAT scan, and the CAT scan is finally what discovered it. And thankfully, it was a benign tumor, not a malignant one. So, but basically, yeah, he had 5 surgeries over the course of the next. The final one was from the end of the 2021 season up until February of 2022, and it seems like it's finally, at a point, thankfully where it's fixed, because he had to spend 2022 rehabbing. So, yeah, it's interesting. He's been good this year, and it's nice to see him back pitching. He's someone I'm looking forward to getting a look at, because the stuff is pretty interesting. Like, seems like, 2-seam fastball, velos, it's like low 90s, but he throws a ton of strikes and doesn't really walk people. So that's an interesting kind of mix, but we'll see how much the strikeout rate is, because that was one thing. He hasn't missed that many bats, but if he can be like a heavy, fastball, get a bunch of ground balls guy, that's somewhat interesting there. So it was good to hear that he's back on the right track, and he got that promotion.
Yep. Moving up from Salem to Greenville, not as big a list. The big one there is Dalton Rogers in the rotation, as well as relief pitcher Brock Bell and utility player Carson Seamus. Rogers, good start to his first full pro season. Clearly wasn't going to spend a lot of time in Salem. Not surprising at all. They moved him up. And then the promotions from extended spring training to Salem. The interesting one is Stinson Garcia, who takes the roster spot vacated by Miguel Blaze, who went down with a left shoulder injury, left shoulder strain.
It's the same injury he had before.
Right. Well,
apparently.
I don't think we'd really talked about the first one because he had missed about a week and a half. I didn't realize it was that long the first time. Hurting his shoulder on a swing, came back for it may not have even been a week. I think he was healthy for a week in which he played 3
I
games.
don't think he was healthy though. If you watched like his
Yeah.
swings,
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was only playing every other day too. So it was one of those things where I think they were kind of letting him ease back into it. Um, and then he just really hurt himself on a swing and went right to the DL or the IL. And I think he's down in Fort Myers. The plan was to send him to Fort Myers to rehab. So he's going to be a minute.
it's gonna be a while with that one.
It's going to be a minute. They're not going to
Yeah.
mess around with Blaze being hurt. So Yostinson Garcia goes up to Salem to take his roster spot, also joined by Claudio Simone, which I like your theory, Ian. The reports on Mikey Romero are that I think they want him to start playing in games sometime in June. That's probably going to be an FCL
I think it was mid-June.
mid-June. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna probably be an FCL rehab assignment, and he'll be up in Salem shortly thereafter. That seems like Simone's just keeping his roster spot warm, honestly. So we'll see Romero go up at that point. So that's the promotion list for this time around. But a lot of guys to talk about. Always fun to see promotions, I guess. Ian, who's on your radar?
Well,
to
I
get
think you
promoted
should
next?
with the Seamus promotion though. The reasoning was Brainer Bonusy went on the IL. I mean,
Well,
if we're
I
gonna
was going to
mention
get to that
Blaze,
in injuries, but
well, but you
yeah.
mentioned Blaze there, so I figured that
Okay,
was
fair enough. That's fair. Yeah, Bonus, he went down with a hamstring injury. He'd been playing really well since he missed the first month due to a visa issue. Um, just rough timing, especially because a lot of that middle infield time had been opened up by Meyer getting promoted.
yeah. He was
So
looking good at shortstop defensively too. That's what
yeah.
Chris Clegg, who's seen him a bunch this year, said that he was
Hmm.
impressed with him at his defense there. Mostly his arm. His arm is really good.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, it was just unfortunate timing. He was, as you said, he'd been hitting really well, and I think we'll talk about him a little more with rankings because I'm sure there are some questions about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was yeah, too bad on that injury as well. Also, another tough one. Tyler Esplin finally got activated after dealing with rehab from a shoulder injury for almost a month and a half to start the year. Got activated, was playing. He was playing a lot of first base, which was interesting. And then he went on the IL the same day that Bonus he did. I don't know if it's the same shoulder injury or what the deal is with him. So hopefully that's not too bad. He'll be back soon. Other injury news. Let's see what else we talked about. Blaze Nathan Hickey went on the 7-day IL in Portland. We're not quite sure why. It looks like it might just be just catcher dinged upness, which is certainly a thing. And then up in Worcester on the same day, the Worcester Red Sox put both David Hamilton and William Abreu on the IL. Hamilton had a left thumb injury. Abreu has a strained hamstring, which you don't like hearing for a guy who started the year on the IL because of the same injury. So again, hopefully those two guys, I mean, those are two guys who, could be playing themselves onto the depth chart, maybe not necessarily for a call up, especially with the major leaguers, like we were just talking about. Guys like Arroyo just came off the IL. Duvall is going to be coming off soon. Yu Chang is on a rehab assignment in Worcester. So, the Red Sox are finally getting healthy in the majors, but those guys had pretty good starts to the year. So tough timing for those two as well. On the positive side with injuries, Bradley Blaylock's back in. Blaylock missed, let's see, when did he get it? Was it last spring he got hurt in spring training? Or it was before that, I think, for him to come back this quickly. Let me see. It should be on his player page. Blaylock had Tommy John surgery. I think it was early in the off season.
No,
March. He underwent Tommy John March 17, 2022. So he just had the surgery early enough last year that he could make it back.
He missed like 14 months.
Yeah, 14 months. I mean, that's a good timeline, but it's not crazy.
No, because it's interesting. I saw his first outing on a mound in a live BP in spring training. And,
yes, we were there for that.
And yeah, he's looked good. He's someone we like
two really good starts. Yep.
We liked pre-injury, and now that he's back, definitely someone I think is worth monitoring. His fastball velo, he's up into like the mid 90s. He's up to like 96. He's got, interesting secondary pitches, especially the splitter. It's kind of a new pitch for him. I think he shelved the changeup and is going with the splitter.
Interesting.
So yeah, he's one I think to keep an eye on because he's got to get back to Greenville, which I think is where he'll end up. But
yeah,
definitely someone who has the arrow trending up right now.
This is like, it's like a non-rehab assignment that he's on right now, because you can't rehab in Salem from the Greenville roster. So you just have to get assigned to Virginia, to Salem. So that's why he's, just on the roster as opposed to on a rehab assignment. Other news, Ian, the Red Sox signed a draft pick from 2022. How on earth does that work, you ask?
Well, we definitely talked about it at the time that it was a
Well, we talked
possibility.
about it at the time, but you can't assume everyone listens or remembers that far back. So Austin Ehrlicher was signed as a draft and follow. If that does not sound familiar to you, it's fine. It's been a while since that was a thing. If it does sound familiar to you, thank you for having followed the website for so long. The draft and follow system was a thing that back in the day, first of all, way back, there was no signing deadline for the draft except for like a week or so before the next year's draft, or it might have been a couple weeks or something, 10 days. So you could draft a player, and as long as you signed them before that period, it was all gravy. So you could draft a guy. It usually was guys at junior colleges, and they would go to JUCO for a year, and then you would determine whether you wanted to sign them or not. You were basically kind of drafting their rights to sign them after the following year. You could also do that with guys at four-year schools, I believe. It was at first. Eventually, they got rid of that, and you could only do this with junior college guys. Then they got rid of it entirely. With the CBA, the Players Union and MLB entered into before last season, they brought back draft and follows for JUCO guys, and that's what happened here. Ehrlicher got $200K to sign. The rule allows you to sign a draft and follow for up to $225,000 without accounting against your draft cap. The Red Sox had like 265, including the draft cap to give him, but they gave him 200. They signed him. Apparently, he's got an elbow injury that he's going to rehab as a pro rather than at Arizona State, where he had committed. Makes perfect sense. Why not collect a paycheck while you do that? So,
well, he hasn't elected if he's going to have surgery or not.
Yeah, they don't know what the deal is. Yep.
But his stuff, I mean, it's pretty interesting. I watched some video of it. It's like, up to 93, big breaking ball, slider also. Mm-hmm. So athletic, obviously, as you'd expect, given he's a basketball player also. 6'4", like good frame. So it's definitely he's an interesting pitcher. It's just, a question of when we'll get to see him on the mound is still uncertain.
Mm-hmm. And then a few guys who left the organization, Ian. One, which was really interesting, Greg Allen had was it an upward mobility, or was it an upward mobility clause that he exercised? And apparently the Red Sox had multiple suitors for him, it looks like, because it took them like 4 days to trade him. Because the way an upward mobility clause works is if one team, basically an upward mobility clause is the Red Sox have to offer the guy to every team in Major League Baseball if they want to add him to their 26-man roster. If one team says they're interested in the player, the Red Sox have to just give them the player. If there are multiple teams interested, then the Red Sox have the option of making a deal with one of the two teams, basically saying, all right, you both want him, or multiple teams. If you want him, make your best offer, and we'll give it to whoever the best offer is. And so the Red Sox wind up trading Greg Allen to, of all teams, the New York Yankees, in exchange for cash and a FCL player named Diego Hernandez.
Well, no, DSL. He was in the DSL.
Well, he was in the DSL last year. This year, he would have been an FCL guy. He would have been a stateside complex league guy. He's in Fort Myers right now. Who apparently it sounds like he's not going to pitch this year. He's on this minor league 60-day IL. He had a brace procedure on his arm.
It's the same thing Trevor Story had, if it sounds familiar.
Yes. Yeah. It's not quite Tommy John, but it's a similar injury, I believe.
Yeah. But he's an interesting arm, like talking to some people who saw the DSL.
Yeah. He's not nobody. He's not
like,
ranked.
I'll give you a point of reference. Like, he's far more interesting than like Inmer Lobo was, who the Red Sox traded
for Hoy Park, when y'all freaked out.
But yeah, he put up good numbers last year, like athletic, low 90s, decent breaking ball, obviously elbow injury, but definitely someone to keep an eye on when he gets back, whenever that is.
Also, happy trails to a couple players who were released. One, Jorge Alfaro exercised his opt-out clause and left. The Red Sox did not add him to the 26-man roster to keep him. Not surprised.
He also hasn't been picked up by anyone else.
One that a lot of people were like fired up about on Twitter, and I'm like, yeah, he can hit, but he can't catch, guys. Like,
we can't hit either. He can hit in AAA. Like,
he can hit at AAA.
He's never hit the major league level, and even if you look at his AAA stats, he doesn't walk. He strikes out a ton. Like, Yeah, you can make if he makes contact, he hits the ball hard, but like you can't do that as your only skill. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
he can't catch at all. And they didn't have room for a DH first base type on the bench. Like they already have Bobby Dahlbeck on the 40 man. So they're not going to add Alfaro too. So he just made no
Mhm.
sense on the roster. And I think it's telling that he's still out there, right now. Like there was no team, jumping at the bit to add him. So the Red Sox, I think it makes sense they didn't want to either.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like Gary Sanchez is getting a bunch of chances with teams right now, but like, would you rather have Gary Sanchez or Jorge Alfaro? I don't know what the answer to that is, but it's like it's not like they're terribly different players, but the answer might be that Sanchez is better. So, yeah, we'll see if he lands anywhere. The other player that was released was Freddie Sanchez. He was the outfielder the Red Sox acquired in the Andrew Benintendi deal on the Mets side of the trade. Never got out of the Florida Complex League. This year he was transitioning to pitching and he was released before the FCL started. Ian, part of me wonders it could just be that he was not taking to the transition well, that they just didn't really see enough there to hang on to him and keep working with him. But part of me wondered if the situation was that he was just not into it and was
I
just
don't
like, I
know.
want to go
Yeah.
hit somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
that's also a possibility. It wouldn't be the first time that had happened. So, for a guy to make that transition, they need to be 100% in on the idea of it. And if he wasn't, then it wasn't going to take. Again, not that we know that that's the case. He might have been 100% in and just not good. So, yeah, I think that's the extent. That's all of the news from since our last episode. A lot has happened, a lot to digest there. But of course, the other big things that have happened since our last episode, Ian, is we've posted new rankings on the website, and the complex leagues have started, and we of course have rosters to look at and digest. Should we do rosters, then go into rankings and then emails? How does that sound? All right, looking at, I mean, I guess we can take the Dominican Summer League rosters first.
There's
Um,
not a lot to say about
Not a
them.
lot to
Like
say about
I
the
don't.
rosters. I guess just previewing the guys down there. Look, Alex Spear wrote a great preview the other day, with some quotes from Eddie Romero and guys in the front office for both complex leagues. In fact, I highly recommend checking that out. It really does seem like the big name down in the Dominican. It sounds like the team really likes Yoelan Cespedes,
Yoellen.
who's Yoelan Cespedes. Yeah, I kind of muffled that, but 17-year-old out of the Dominican Republic who signed last year for 1.4 million. It really does sound like they really like this kid, that he's the next guy that's going to pop. Alex Spear mentioned that it's not outside the realm of possibility that Cespedes pushes his way stateside this year, which they haven't had a DSL guy to do that in a decent amount of time.
I like that though. Like if you think a guy's good, get him here. Like let's get the process started. That's what all the top teams are doing. Like heck, I
Like
mean the Padres have a kid
Ethan Salas,
in A ball who's 16, which is he's 17 now, but
just turned
he's
17.
also like a unicorn. Well, when he
Yeah,
was
Ethan
assigned, he was
Salas.
16.
Yes.
But yeah, like Cespedes is super interesting. Definitely some positive feedback obviously coming on him. I think
Mhm.
he's they one to watch. And I wonder if the way it's going to play out is once Romero moves through the FCL, probably by the end of the month or so, they push Cespedes up there. Because I feel
Maybe.
like to me it makes sense that like if you look at the FCL roster right now, they obviously want Marvin Alcantara playing every day, but Angel Pierre is hitting last. So that to me doesn't indicates he's not
At second
exactly
base.
he's
Yeah.
not exactly a priority play. So that's, as soon as Romero gets his rehab through, and I would assume he'll need at least a week there. There's an opening at the middle infield for someone like Cespedes to come in.
Yeah,
So
but keep in mind you're going to get the draftees there soon too, though, because the
I
draft's
mean,
in mid-July. But that said,
yeah, but
I
they're
guess
not
with
going
the
to start.
draft so late now,
Yeah,
there
they're
is
not going to
more
start
room.
playing, and I think it's end of July. I don't think it's mid July, isn't it?
Is it the end of July this year?
Oh, look, MLB draft. The date is it's the 9th to the 11th, so it's the middle. The signing deadline's like the end. So yeah. But anyway, like even if those guys sign, they're not going to start playing until around August. So there's plenty
Mhm.
of there's plenty of time for a guy like him, and there's no guarantee they'll take a middle infielder either. So if
And
you think he's that good, you get him up there as soon as there's an opportunity. And I think once Romero kind of matriculates his way through that level up to Salem, there's definitely an opening for someone like him to be up there.
and in the FCL, they're okay with a guy not playing every single day. Because you're playing games at noon in the Florida sun. So frankly, you don't necessarily want to burn a guy out playing him every day. But they're also like they're working on other things on the side that, you get the guy in the morning, he's working on X, Y, and Z. And like, yeah, you get the game off every fourth day. There's nothing wrong with that. Mikey Romero and Roman Anthony were not necessarily playing. I mean, guys play close to every single day when they're top prospects like your Romeros and Anthony's and that kind of thing. But like, if
That's
there are
why
two shortstops, they're going to be okay with Yohan Cespedes getting some time at second and getting some time at
Yoellen.
DH. That's what I'm saying.
You said Yoellen.
I'm saying Yoellen. It's
No, you
just
said
I'm
Yohan.
muffling it. No, I'm not saying I'm not. I'm muffling it. I'm saying I'm exhausted and I am muffling it. I'm saying Yoellen, I promise.
But I think the thing to pay attention to is where they're hitting in the order. That's far more important in terms of how what I look at the priority is that rather than how often like as you said, like if they're sitting every third or fourth game at the FCL level, like because if you look at the top of that FCL lineup, you got Nathan Utan hitting first, which was where he hit in spring training. Second is Marvin Alcantara, which is no surprise. Is kind of what we talked about coming out of spring. Third is Yohan Fran Garcia, same thing, no surprise based on what we saw in spring. Fourth is Brooks Brannon, and fifth was who was it? Frelly Encarnacion. And then you go down and like I think Cespedes is hitting second, I want to say, for the DSL team. So yeah, those guys, the priority guys, are all hitting at the top of the lineup.
Yep. And then looking at, I guess, on the are there other guys to focus on? It's kind of crazy. The other thing that really sticks out to me on the position player side down there, Ian, is that Framey De Leon, one of their 7-figure guys from the prior year, is not even starting.
I mean, it's not surprising though either.
It's not surprising based on last year, but it's just it's crazy to see for a guy that got a 7-figure
coming out of last year, I remember
repeating.
we were getting reports from the DSL and not anyone mentioned him. Like there was. It's just tough when you have under the current slotting system. If you have a 7-figure bonus that doesn't turn out to be someone who at least gets into like the mid minors, high minors, can be organizational depth. That's just a tough outcome. So he definitely still could, but it's hard. The track record of guys repeating the DSL, especially who aren't even everyday players, their second year is not very good.
Although I think it's less of a death now than it was previously. Because you've got some interesting guys who come over. I mean, heck, Jose Ramirez pitched there for 3 years, and he's kind of an interesting guy. Arm in Salem, maybe not as a starter, and maybe he's not a 7-figure guy, but like,
I think it's different for pitchers than position players personally. Because pitchers, I think you can be a late bloomer. So
not wrong, not wrong. I mean, at the very least, I do know that like repeating the FCL is probably not the death knell it used to be. Like outside of Christian Vasquez, if you repeated the complex league estate side, you were not looking good because at that time you had Lowell, right? If you couldn't get to Lowell for that second year, at least it was not good. But now I think because that jump to that jump to Salem is just so high. It's just really hard for a guy to deal with that. So if they're, it's possible to just not be ready. So any other names? I check out Alex's article. Some of the other names to keep an eye on are Franklin Arias on the DSL Red Sox Red side. Who are some other guys? Ian, I'm looking at the roster and none of them are standing out to me. Cleaver Salazar, catcher, who's John Frank Salazar's younger brother, is another name to watch. On the pitching side, it's really a kind of a nondescript group.
I mean, they haven't put a lot of big bonuses on the pitching
side. They really
side.
haven't on the pitching side recently, but that's because they get these guys that pop up that they give 75K to or 50K to. So no real big name.
Some
there.
of their top pitching prospects, like Brian Bayo, signed for what, 35K. So
yep, exactly.
Let's talk about the FCL.
For 75.
The
FCL, we have more
there's
thoughts.
far more to talk about because we've seen a lot of I've seen almost every one of these guys play before. So.
My thought is for pre-draft, it's solid but doesn't jump off the page. Is that fair? Would you say, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, there's
pretty good depth, but not.
There's no top 30 guy right now, but I think there's a couple.
There
is.
Well,
Marvin.
No, Marvin.
Marvin is.
Marvin Alcantara.
But I think that the top of the order is definitely worth watching. Like, I mean, I'm interested. I know we have Brooks Brannon a little lower, but he's someone I know. Like the work ethic is there. He really is. He's obviously he puts in a lot of time and effort to become a good baseball player, and he's had off to a good start. So that's encouraging to see. He showed some flashes in the spring, but it was a little inconsistent. So it's nice to see him having a home run and a couple 3 hits in his first 2 games. So that's good to see. But yeah, I think it's the top, 5, 6 guys in the lineup are definitely interesting, and it'll be it's going to be fun to kind of follow those guys and start getting some reports on them and see how they're developing. And
those names that you mentioned.
Yeah, pitching wise is a little bit of I feel like it's there's fewer guys, or there's not many big names, but
no.
There are some interesting guys, like obviously the guy of opening day, your Denny Monegro had
apparently he's now up to 97, improved stuff from last year. And I guess that kind of goes to the point of repeating the FCL not being the kind of prospect death sentence that it used to be. So he's turned into an interesting guy. Probably could see him in Salem. The problem is that they've got 7 starters right now, but maybe if Blaylock moves up, he moves up. Does that seem fair? If Blaylock goes up to Greenville?
I mean, it's hard to say. Like when I saw him in spring, he didn't really have a third pitch, so I'm not sure how that would play in Salem. But yeah, I mean, we'll kind of wait.
But some other interesting arms there, Ian. I thought it was interesting that Wandy Abreu got the second day start, because he was relief only in the DSL, and he was an older DSL guy, and now
he's also
getting
huge though.
He's enormous.
Like listed at 6'4", 240. I remember seeing him in spring and being like, "Oh wow,
he's a unit. He's a large dude." It's funny too, because he was like the fireman down there, but again, at like in his 30, I think he was a 3-year DSL guy, wasn't he?
No, he's old.
He was definitely 2 years.
No, that last year was his first year. He just signed late.
He just signed at 18. Okay.
Yeah. No, he signed at 20 or 19.
19. Well, he signed November of 21. He's born. Okay, so 19.
Yeah, he signed at 19.
Yep.
So yeah, he just signed late.
Yeah. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like a lot of these guys, we've seen them. They have like kind of generic reports, because in spring training, a lot of these guys are throwing like 1 inning. It's hard to kind of read too much into it.
Yeah, I think you saw like him and like Smil Guzman through like a bullpen. Right?
Yeah, and I saw like Colmenares,
William Pacheco, Colmenares,
Valero, Christian Nunez. Like I've seen a decent amount of these guys, but it's just like
you don't know.
Very different, like the spring training atmosphere, and it's just you're not going to take too much away from it. So if you want an idea of kind of like what to expect, like a brief overview of their arsenal, pretty much all of them will eventually have. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have kind of reports with velos and stuff on it, but not a lot more than that, because it's just need to see more. Need to see them in regular season game action to get a full report up there.
Fair enough. All right, rankings. June 1 ranking, or I guess June 5. I guess we're doing these on like the 5th now, has kind of unofficially become the point in time where we update the rankings. An interesting update this time around, Ian. To me, kind of the big kind of headlines were, first of all, the rise from 9 to 6 of Roman Anthony. Very interesting that Kylie McDaniel put him in his top 50 prospects this month recently, and I get why he did that. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's
I don't think it's crazy. It's
very aggressive.
It's a projection thing. It's
100%.
You're just looking, because under the surface, as we've talked about, his numbers are really impressive. Like for his age, but he
good
has
approach.
He has an astronomically high ground ball rate. That's the big issue right now. And he's a little stiff. Like if you watch his swing, and he just kind of he hits a lot of balls directly down on the ground. And so if he can unlock and start lifting the ball, like there's definitely potential here. And I think it shows in his line. Like I think he's hitting like 240, 250 for the season. But
with no power, like for a guy that's got those exit
but he's almost got a 400 on base.
Right.
So it's been a weird season, but he's definitely promising. And I think it's just, if you look at the guys that were around him, like they're either hurt or not performing well at all. So it was kind of a pretty easy change for me, was getting him up there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if Anthony started to lift the ball, I think I would not have any problem putting him 3rd on the list.
No, I mean, right now, like I think Meyer is a tier to himself, and it's not close.
No,
then I think
question.
Blaze is
almost by default.
Is 2.
Yes.
He's above the next guy, like the Rafaela York tier, but I don't think it's like on upside, it's a big gap, but
he's not close to Meyer.
No, none of them are. And then Drohan is kind of like, I would have him a clear 5th. And then Anthony, like, I think I could see him jump. He's right where he belongs. He's in that 3rd, 4th tier.
Yeah. To me, Anthony was very easy to put 6th on my rankings. Like I didn't think twice about jumping him above. Basically, he flipped with Brian Mata this month. Putting him above Romero was easy. Perales is starting to trend upward. He's going longer into outings. He's having better outings.
I mean, he's doing exactly what I expected. Like,
yes.
A slow start for him is not that surprising. First time in a full season affiliate in Salem in April. It's not exactly the best conditions.
Mm-hmm. He's now our second ranked pitching prospect.
Yeah, he's starting to the metrics have always been good. Like he's someone who his FIP is like 2 runs lower than his actual ERA.
Yeah.
So it's like there's definitely some luck, some defensive issues maybe contributing to it. Because if you look under the surface, like the surface numbers with him are, I mean, it's like the best. He's got the best fastball shape in anyone in the system. Like there's a lot of he's missing bats still. His strikeout rate was trending up compared to everything is trending in the right direction from where it was in April. It's just cutting down the walks is the big thing still.
Mm-hmm. We didn't flip Nick York above Ceddanne Rafaela, and there was definitely some discussion of this in the forum. Although now, like Rafaela got hot
in New York,
and his number, his average is up around there. I think the Nick York comeback. It's been good to see that he's hitting.
Well, he's in BA's top 100 again now.
Yeah, he jumped. Yes, which I think is a mistake.
I mean, I was looking at the guys at the end of the list, and it seems like the minors is kind of down right now. I think we're kind of
always is right before the draft.
Because what it is as you said, it's like there's probably like 20 guys have graduated from the list already, and there's been no infusion of talent from the draft or yet. So it's like this is the lowest point of the list right now, if that makes sense in terms of talent wise.
Well, because you know what it is too, is it's that guys are graduating earlier in the season because there's no more incentive not no more incentive. There's incentive.
Teams are still doing it. Like the Jordan Walker thing. Like, come on. He makes the team, gets demoted when he's hitting like 280 and then goes down there, just happens to be just long enough to get the extra year. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it's when the guy doesn't look like he's going to be a rookie. Well,
exactly. As soon as you're like, oh, he's not. Well, because let's be honest, Corbin Carroll's winning in the National League. Like, that's barring something unforeseen, he's going to win the NL one. So, that was funny, but a lot of guys are graduating, and so I think I get it. Like, for me, he's like right on the borderline, if that makes sense. I think him and Rafaela. Like they're both in the
Nick York, you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I think they're both in like the 100 to 150 range for me.
Yes. I think that's probably fair.
Obviously they get there very different ways. But
and let's talk about that because I think especially even at the time when like York's slash line looked a lot better than Rafaela's. And I love when the underlying numbers bear this out. You had the great observation that look, I've seen him live. He's swinging through some pitches that he should not be swinging through.
A lot, like in the zone fastballs that he should be crushing. Yeah.
Then you look, he's got one of the highest in zone whiff rates in the system.
Yeah, his zone contact rate is like 71.
71. So it was 71 through the first 2 months of the season. Right?
Yeah.
He's in the bottom 10 in the system in zone whiff rate.
And not 10%, like 10
bottom
players.
10 guys. Yeah. Well, which might, actually in a system where you only have 100, you only have like 100 hitters.
But this is, we have to think about this is before DSL and FCL have started. But still it's like, it's rough. And it's interesting too, when you actually compare their numbers, like Rafaela, higher zone contact rate, higher hard hit rate. Chase
is way more. Well, it's not even way more.
Well, no,
is it way more?
I'm at 40% to 25%.
Okay, it is way more. Okay, I was thinking of there was another.
I will give Rafaela credit. That is actually down from where it was at the end of April. At the end of April, he was 43% or something, or 44%.
It's trending in the right direction.
It is at least it was 42%. Excuse me. So it's at least trending in the right direction. But his hard hit rate is higher. Rafaela and New York, they're 90th, which is I like that metric a lot in terms of measuring like how hard you actually can hit the ball. Because max exit velo can get a little hairy. Like that number can be fluky. So this is basically you're making consistent, like really hard contact. Like their numbers are both around the same, around 104.2 and 104.8. Like the big difference is Chase, but then Rafael is like better or around the same in everything else. So it's like, I understand that the numbers at the time, especially, I mean, Rafael's hot streak has really brought it back. He's up to like 285, 286 now. And York's around the same area. So yeah, they get their different ways and they both have their limitations, but I think that they belong pretty close together. And I just think that at the end of the day, like the defense wins out. Like we're seeing it too with the Red Sox right now, the value of defense. And
yeah,
Rafaela has the chance to be a plus defender at two positions, whereas York is like best case, like a fringy second baseman. That's a really tough profile. Like we're looking at Christian Arroyo. Like Christian Arroyo is not playing that much for the Red Sox, and he at least can play a passable second base. He's got a decent hit tool. Like Valdez can't really play defense, but he can hit a little bit. Like it's tough to be a right hit only guy. So it's just a tough profile for York, but he has the ability to hit his way out of it, if that makes sense, or hit above that.
Sure.
It's just he really has to hit. Whereas I think Rafael just has more pathways to being like a consistent MLB player.
Exactly. York with an average hit tool.
It's like an York, it's a AAA guy.
It's a up and down guy. Like if that, like it. Whereas Rafaela with an average hit tool is a regular.
Rafaela with an average hit tool is like a 3, probably a 2.5 WAR player because of his defense. Like
because of his defense, and he can run.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just, and that's the hard part is like when we're doing these projections, and we'll get to Blaze Jordan later because I'm sure I'm going to guess there are some email questions about him.
Whether or not there's emails, there's been a lot of discussion about him on Twitter of like, why doesn't anyone love Blaze Jordan?
You have to like, we're not, when we're doing these rankings and doing like talking about their scouting reports and everything, we're not just projecting like what they're doing in this current year. Cause like there are guys who are going to have really good statistical seasons.
You know what the way that, let me just interject with the way James put it on the forum is I like it. These are not power rankings.
Yeah.
This is projection of major league value rankings.
Correct.
I don't care what you're hitting.
No,
like
not at all.
I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't.
And it's not just one season in the majors because, like, as we've seen, anyone can come up and have a hot month in the majors.
Maybe not anyone, but like you can.
I mean, you can. Okay, fair. Not anyone, but like you know what I mean. Like people can come up and have a hot stretch. It's what is this guy going to do, in our opinion, if he comes up and is at the major league level for 3 years, 4 years, like an extended period of time. And that what is like the projection there? What is the best case scenario there? Like that's what we're weighing. And I just, to me, like if we're talking about like routes to get to that value, to get to being just the baseline being on the 26-man roster for multiple seasons, Rafaela's has way more ways to get there than Nick York does.
Yep.
And that's but they're very close. And the reason that they're close is because York has the chance for the better hit tool. And at the end of the day, if you can hit, usually they'll find a way to play you. So it's like, that's why it's tough. But I think I like both of them. I think that what they've done this season has been, I think both of them, where they are right now is encouraging. I think that, it's going to be interesting to see which way it goes for the rest of the summer. But I think, positives on both ways. York has bounced back and Rafaela, after a slow start, has also bounced back. So it's just nice to see them both hitting right now.
There are two other things I will really want to discuss in the rankings, Ian, and then I don't know if there's anything you want to get to. We can, do them in whatever order you want. The first one I want to bring up, since we previewed it, is Blaze Jordan. He's still at number 16, essentially holding steady. He was 17 last month, 18 in our season opening rankings, 15 during the offseason, right? He's basically been holding steady as people move around him. Slash line right now is good. He's, age appropriate, if not a little young for high A. He's 20 in high A. Love that. 306, 348, 503. Cool. I like the line. Great. Yep. 7 bombs. Love to see it. Underlying numbers for the most part, okay. I was going to say the one really bad one is.
Oh, I think there's 3.
Okay. The one that stood out to me when we were looking the first month that actually got a little better this month, so it was trending in the right direction, was the chase rate.
Yeah. But
one of the highest chase rates in the system. Do not like that.
No, it's better now. It's still above. Yes. It's still high.
It's still high, but it's trending the correct direction.
But yeah, I think that the things with me and these are things that what concerns me is that they're getting exposed at the high A level. And we've seen a lot of guys jump up to double A and seen how much harder hitting double A pitching is. And when it comes to mine is like the two guys are Nico Cavadas and Chase Meadroth. Chase Meadroth has gone up to double A and like he's not
Add
hitting
Alex Pinellas to it too, by the way, if you want.
right, fair. But like I'm just thinking about I guess Meadroth is the big one. Like he's gone up to double A and it's a lot harder. I think he's found, like there's no power at all. Like he's making contact still, but the stuff that you do against high A pitching, it doesn't necessarily work. And Cavadas is the same thing. Like he hits a ton of home runs, but you just can't chase like those guys do. You can't miss in the zone. Like you're going to see better fastballs, and the things Jordan struggles with, not a great approach, and he still can't really hit velocity. And
has Meadroth hit some home runs lately? Because he's up to a 478 slug. That feels recent.
He must have, because he was literally it was like 280 as of like 2 days ago.
He's at 304, 443, 478. So small sample size fun. Maybe he figured it out.
No, he's homered. He homered yesterday, and he homered yesterday. Actually, you know what it is? He's just on hot. He had a homer and had 2 doubles in the last 3 games.
Yeah. So I mean that'll do it in a 20-game sample size.
But anyway, like the point stands. I mean, I've seen him. Like it's not a good quality of contact from him, but it's just double A pitching is just so much better than high A pitching. And Jordan, just his profile is someone who's going to crush high A, because you have guys who will throw cement mixer breaking balls to him that he can crush. And we've seen that over and over again, and credit to him. Like that's a pitch you should crush. He does do that.
And he's been better with velo this year than he was when we were talking about that last year.
But still, like his OPS, it's like against fastballs above like 94 miles an hour, 632 for the season. It's not great. Like that's pretty low. So he's someone that because this ties kind of in with York, there's not a lot of defensive value there. I'm going to need to see it in the high minors before I'm going to buy him as like a top 10 prospect from the system, or even top 15. Like, yeah, he's kind of stuck in that no man's land where, he's a very good hitter for the low minors, and we need to wait and see what he does in double A, because that's the first real proving ground for someone like who's a polished hitter like he is.
Yeah. And I also, now that I think about it, you mentioned Cavadas. Like there are people saying that like Cavadas has figured out double A. He hasn't. He's a 3 true outcomes all-star right now, because he, as we've said the whole time, terrific approach. I'm not surprised at all that he's walking a ton. I'm not surprised at all that when he hits the ball, he is hitting it a ton. He's got like a 220 ISO, right? The problem is if he's not hitting a home run or walking, he's swinging and missing. Like it's, if you look at a regular swing and miss rate, it's not going to be high because he doesn't chase at all. It's one of the best chase rates in the system, but he swings and misses at a lot of balls in the zone because he's got holes in his swing.
Yeah.
And he does that so that he can lift the ball and impact it. And like to me, I said this on Twitter, the fact that we still have him in the top 30, despite those things, is almost a sign like, there's something there. We don't hate him.
Well, exactly, because it's like and he's another one, no defensive value at all. He's like a below average first baseman. So you're looking at a platoon D, because he can't hit lefties at all either. So you're looking at a platoon DH, like that's usually not really much of a prospect. So us having him still in the top 30 is a reflection of, we think there is one thing that he can do pretty well. It's he can hit right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
My point is he can hit right-handed pitching like for power. Mm-hmm. And if that is
walk, he's not.
But if that's carrying you into the top 30, then you must do that really well, which he does. And it's hard to push guys like that much higher because of the limitations in other areas of their game. Where, think about it, like the best case scenario for that is what, Dan Vogelbach. And Vogelbach
that's 100%
someone who, if you ask a Mets fan, they have no interest in having anywhere near their roster. Like, it's just in the modern baseball, that's just a really tough profile to carry on your roster. Like it's hard to hold a position for a guy who's a DH only. So that's why, like, inherently the defense is going to push these guys down. Like you gotta, when we're doing these rankings, we're not just looking at offensive statistics. We have to value in defense, base running, projection, things like that too. So that's why if like your favorite prospect was putting up really good numbers, but he's lower, there's going to be like other mitigating factors that are likely driving that ranking, pushing them down.
The other guy who I wanted to mention, Ian, is because there was a pretty healthy internal debate about where to put him, is Briner Bonacy. Great month of May. Showed a lot of good things. Like you mentioned, Clegg talking about his defense. The question was how high to push him back up. And it was weird, right? Because he was 16th in the rankings the entire offseason, fell down a little bit, down to 25 this past month because of the visa issues that kept him out the entire first month. While he was down and extended having a spring training. They get him up to Greenville. I almost got the sense that they like delayed it because of playing time concerns a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, didn't not delayed it, but didn't push it too
Right.
hard.
Had him just staying extended, getting it past there consistently.
Because the thing is, in the meantime, in Greenville, they had Mydroth Meyer and Edinson Polino. He gets up there. They basically got 4 guys for 3 positions plus DH, which I guess they made work for a minute. Mydroth goes up. Now Meyer's up. He and Polino are splitting the shortstop reps now. Great month, but it's one of those things where it's like, I liked him a lot, but and you made the point, and it's true. You don't want to push a guy too much because of one good month.
Yeah, he had like a 440 BABIP or something.
Yeah, and so I want to. You made the point. I pulled back the reins on him because I think I was the high man on him, and I pulled him back a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, it's like the underlying metrics. So they're better than they were last season when it comes to like things like hard hit rate, but they're still like fringy. Like they're not standout or anything. Especially when you compare to some of the other guys in the system. And he still has some like holes in his swing. Like the approach is kind of he's a free swinger, I would say. Like it's a pretty aggressive approach, even though he walks a decent amount.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it's just, I want to see him consistently do this for a few months before I'm willing to believe in it, because it's a weird profile too. Like he's small. I'm not sure how much projection there is physically. It's kind of a body you kind of have to watch. And yeah, I just I'm not sure I necessarily buy the bat yet. Like I need to see more from it.
Who's bigger, him or Paulino? I think him, right?
Paulino's taller. I think that,
is he?
But Bonusy, I would say, is like stronger and wider.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. They're both. I think they're both listed at 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
But I just having stood next to Bonusy, I'm not sure he's 5'10". I'll just say that.
Well, they all have more accurate heights now because of the incoming automated ball strike system.
I guess they're both listed at 5'10", so which is but Bonusy is Paulino's listed at 155 pounds. Like he's really skinny. Like he's got very small legs. Like he's got to add some size there. Whereas
I feel like Paulino looks smaller, even though if they're the same height.
Yeah,
this is what I remember from the spring. Although was he even there yet?
Who
was Bonusy even there yet?
No, he showed up after you were gone.
That's right. Yeah. So never mind. Yeah. Fair enough.
But no, he's an interesting guy, and unfortunately now we're not going to find anything out for a while because I think he's going to be out a decent amount of time with that hamstring injury. So that was just a tough break that he goes down running the bases. In the midst of a really
rough
good stretch
timing
for him.
Hopefully he's not out for too long.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna, no, that we already talked about. Bonus. He was the other thing I was going to mention. Anybody in the rankings that you want to discuss? I mean, there's an interesting. We already kind of talked about that crop of relief prospects.
Yeah, I would say just the Matthew Lugo. It's been a rough season for him. I think that
I think he's got to be banged up.
I don't know. I think that his limitations, like last year, it was a very aggressive approach, and I think what we're seeing is, and he's another example.
Double A.
Yeah, like. Why I get concerned about like guys making that jump, because you look at his numbers. I don't know if you have his season numbers from last year, but when he was in Greenville last year, like his stat line was very impressive. Obviously, there were some issues with like chase rate, zone contact, some issues like recognizing spin against velocity, and I think that what we're seeing this year is just there's just a big gulf in pitching between high A and double A. Like the chase rate is up even from where it was last year. It's among the highest in the system. Zone contact rate, and like he's not seeing many pitches. Hard hit rate's down.
Playing more left field than anything else.
Yeah, defense is obviously not great. He can't hit velocity. He's really struggling to spin. Like I think he's kind of been you can't write him off yet.
No, of course not.
He's reached the level where it's now on him. He's got to make these adjustments, and
he's done it before.
Yeah, that's exactly. But it's just he's at an age appropriate level where now he's finally struggling for the first time, and now it's on him to see what kind of adjustments he's going to make.
Yeah. Well, he struggled in Salem. I mean, in Salem in 2021, he had 270, 338, 364. I don't think that a 700 OPS is not struggling.
Oh no, no,
for a guy who's supposed to be a
it
top
definitely is. But
prospect.
then you look at Greenville last year, and he
Yeah,
was like
288,
844.
three.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
844 OPS.
Yep,
So I think
much
that,
better.
that's
Yeah.
part of why I'm kind of like taking it back to Bonacy of why I'm like a little hesitant to like, or Jordan, same thing, like jump those guys up is like I need to see it against double A pitching now. Like it's such like having seen, and this is why like I'm so high on someone like Hickey, given the defensive struggles. So like if you think about him, like he's not a very good catcher. He might be a first base DH, maybe he's a left fielder type, but we have him above these other guys because he's gone up to double A and shown that advanced approach and shown like good contact skills and good hard hit rate, stuff like that. Recognizes spin. He's made that adjustment to double A pitching, and that's what I need to see from the guys in this level. That's kind of the big separator right now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Hickey, it's not Ryan. Well, is he giving me Ryan LaVarnway vibes? I don't know. It's not quite the numbers we saw out of LaVarnway, but we also don't know what the underlying stuff looked like on things like exit velo and approach.
Well, no, and the point was LaVarn was like a top 5, top 10 guy in the system, wasn't he? I mean, that was
right, and
my
that's what I'm
time, but
saying. And is that why we don't have like? Because I think about this sometimes, knowing what we know now versus what we knew 10 years ago, 15 years ago in this exercise, these exercises, like, would Nico Cavadas be in the top 10? Would Nathan Hickey be? Well, Nathan Hickey, the stolen base issues we would know about. So that's what really what's holding him back. But like, with Hickey, it's like, does the bat hold up if he's not catching? I think we basically got him ranked where he would be if he weren't a catcher. Essentially,
yeah, that's exactly. If he was a catcher who was hitting like he was, he would be a top 10 guy
top
in the
10,
system.
easy,
But
no question.
we don't think he can catch, so that's why.
Or he's not
Uh,
showing he can catch. It's not even whether we think it or not. It's like when you
mean,
give up whatever 35 or something.
but I've also
stolen
seen him
bases.
like I don't think he can catch. Like, could he do it in a pinch? Sure. Like, could he catch a game or two? But he's not someone I would be comfortable having as like an everyday catcher or even like my only backup catcher on a major league roster.
And for anyone who's saying Mike Napoli out there, Mike Napoli, granted, he's moved pretty. I looked the other day. I forgot how late in his career Mike Napoli finally moved off of catcher for good. Like he was like 33 or 34 or something.
Oh, really?
He was in his
but he also raked, didn't he? Like
he raked. But the thing is that like he was a first baseman for like 2 years before he fell off the map.
Yeah.
Like I was surprised how late it was, but he only did it for a couple of years while he was a full-time player, and then he just kind of really fell off the face of the earth. But part of that was just he caught for a long time. Anyway, my point is it's a bad comp. So
I wasn't sure where you were going with that one. I just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah. No. Well, I was thinking about it the other day because people were talking about like, could he be Mike Napoli? Right.
I mean, if he's Mike Napoli wasn't Mike Napoli an all-star? Like,
no. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. Could he be Mike Napoli in terms of like, he was awesome at first base for the Red Sox.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A former catcher who moved off the position for defensive reasons.
Got it.
But Mike Napoli was a catcher in the major leagues for like 8 seasons or something. Like it's not a good comp for that either. No. I was surprised how late in his career he moved, and I was surprised how quickly he fell off the face of the planet once he moved. Yeah. So shows the pressure on the bat.
I think the other name I think just worth mentioning, because I assume we'll get some questions on him, is Isaac Coffey. He's someone who made his debut, I think.
Yes, his debut at 51 on the rankings.
So I know the numbers
great
are
numbers,
really good.
Terrific numbers.
So it's tough because he throws like 88 to 90.
Yeah.
So
from a funky arm slot.
It's a really deceptive arm slot. And shout out Chris Clegg again, our guy in Greenville. He's got some really good video on his Twitter page. I think I retweeted it too. And showing like Coffey pitching and his changeup and stuff like that, and some detailed like pitch data or pitch info on him. It's like a good changeup. It's a good breaking ball. It's just, and this is it's part of the exercises. Have you seen someone like that succeed at the major league level consistently, or how often? Like, there just aren't a lot of guys throwing 88 to 89 from that. Like, you know what I mean, in the majors these days.
Yeah, it's
you have
tough.
to be really
funky.
Profile. Like, so at the baseline is he's probably a reliever because of that. Like just with that arm slot. And you're talking about like guys like Tyler Rogers are even lower than he is. So it's just it's a really cool story, and I think his stuff is actually pretty interesting. Like, and he's a short strider. There's definitely deception in it. Like, He's got, that funky delivery, that low arm slot, but it's just another one where we got to see it. And you're going to be skeptical all the way up because of just the lack of stuff. Like, he can't outstuff guys. There's a low margin for error. And I think, like, watching guys like Brandon Walter have real struggles as with, frankly, better stuff than he has really opened my eyes to, like, okay, we need to, like, if you don't have the stuff, the command needs to be pinpoint and things like that. And Coffey's given up he has one of the higher home run rates for the guys at that level.
When he gives up a hit, he gets tagged. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and his stretch lately where he's been even better has been when he's stopped giving up the home runs. Like, he's had a scoreless streak, which of course you've got a scoreless streak if you're not giving up home runs, but
yeah, it ended tonight. I think he gave up 2 runs tonight.
Okay.
But the fact that he's at that ranking, I think it shows we've been impressed by what he's done. It's just it's unclear of what to do with him yet, because we just need to see it against.
It's not stuff that you're strapping the rocket ship to.
No, it's like like Chris Troy is like, even his stuff is, or no, actually another member of that rotation is a good example. Angel Bastardo. He's someone who moved up a little bit, not that much. Bastardo has really good stuff. The command and control is pretty poor right now.
Second highest swinging strike rate. No. Whiff rate on swings.
Yes, it's whiff rate. But he walks a ton of guys. And so it's like, he's got much better raw stuff. That's why he's at like 40, whereas Coffey's at like 50. It's just that stuff difference. Going back to it, it gives you that larger margin for error. Like,
yep.
It's easier, it's easier for it to say, oh, you figure out the command and control, your stuff is going to play and miss bats, versus a guy like Coffey, who's going to have to get by deception and location.
Coffey feels like a guy who's going to be putting up good numbers in Greenville and then putting up good numbers in Portland. And we're going to get all kinds of, why isn't this guy higher in the rankings, until he goes to AAA and like ex major league hitters are just like, yeah, no, I'm going deep. And he gives up and I'm not saying I want this to happen. It's just this, you get a feel for what's going to happen when you've seen it happen a certain number of times.
There just aren't a lot of guys.
The guy that's going to get to AAA, and then we're just going to stop hearing, why is this guy not ranked?
Well, then that's why I said Walter. Like, Walter was someone I loved in Portland. Granted, his stuff was
his stuff backed up.
But Steve, even backed up, he's like up to 90. He's like 90 to 91, 92. Like, that's him. 89 to 92 is him backed up. Coffey's like 88 to 90. Like,
yeah.
So it's like, when Walter's struggling as much as he is, like, it's hard for me to envision Coffey being able to consistently get those guys up. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I saw him in spring training. I liked him as like a really solid organizational arm, maybe an up and down reliever. But I mean, and we'll see. Like, I think he's someone who we could see in Portland by like midseason, given how he's pitching. So that'll be a really good test for him too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Should we get to some emails? Let's go. All right. If you want to send us an email, you can send it to podcast@soxprospects.com. We want to talk about what you all want to hear about. Our first email this episode, Ian, comes from. Did we do this one from John Berman? I don't think we did. Our good friend John Berman at CNN, who says, "Dear sirs, the retirement of Anibal Sanchez, which happened mid-May, had me thinking about transactions the Red Sox have made where they traded top prospects, let's say from the top 5 or 10 from the system. That trade arguably brought us 1 and nearly 2 World Series F Tampa. What would you rank as the best and worst of these trades of our adult lives? I can't even think of them all, but other ones that come to mind are the Sale deal, Jake Peavy, Craig Kimbrell trading away Frankie Rodriguez. I think Kimbrell's a big one. I mean, the Chris Sale deal is kind of the biggest one. They traded 2 top 10 prospects.
I mean, 2, what was it, top 20, top 30?
No, I think actually 3
guys?
top 10. 3 top 10 because Basabe was in the top 10 at the time too.
But also 2 of them were top, like what, top
both
40
the top
national,
100 guys.
top 30. Yeah, no, but Moncada was like top 10.
Oh yeah, Moncada was top 10. Kopech was like,
I want to say was like 30 to 50 in that range.
No, I think he only moved up there after the trade.
He
did get there.
What year was the trade? Do you remember?
It was the year, because I remember it happened when
it was
17.
No, 16.
18?
No, 17. Wait.
17.
Oh, it was in the off season. It was in the off season between 16 and 17.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the 17 season.
Oh wait, I'm not on his minor league page.
Yeah, he was like a borderline top 100 guy, I want to say, and then he went and absolutely shoved his first year in the White Sox
in 2016. He was 89. He was a top 100 guy. pre 2016. So pre 2017. So that was before he ever pitched for the White Sox. He was 32 on BA, 10 on
Was he?
MLB, and 36 on BP. So yeah,
Okay,
he was
and then
another
after
top,
that, he wrote he was like considered a top,
a
like
consensus top 20. All of them had him in the top 20.
yeah, yeah.
So, but
And
he
he
was
was
a
like
top.
one of the top pitching prospects in the game. That's
I mean,
right.
MLB had him pre. Oh no, MLB had him 16, but still, he was
Yeah.
16 pre 2017. So he was a top 40 guy. So that's 2 top 40 national guys.
Mhm.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
continue.
So there's that one.
Oh, was the question just what are some examples of them?
No, where would you rank as the best and worst of those trades? Worst might, well, a weird one that I'll give you is Casey Kelly and Anthony Rizzo for Adrian Gonzalez.
Your boy.
Well, because here's the thing. People think Adrian Gonzalez sucked with the Red Sox.
No, he was good.
He was good.
Yeah.
They used him to get rid of Beckett and Crawford.
Yeah.
To get out from under those contracts. I think people really misunderstand how important that deal was in not like just burying them for 3 years while they waited for those contracts to end.
Mhm.
And it's just that it's Gonzalez himself had a large deal as well. So people just kind of put him in the same boat as those two, and he absolutely was not. That's kind of a weird one to rank because it was like the on-field contributions were minimal, put it that way.
Mhm.
Who else is there?
Yeah,
who did they trade Andy Marte for? Vic Gonzalez?
Coco Crisp, right?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, look, I'm on the the rankings page right now. Oh wait, Andy Marte's not on there. Doesn't go back far enough.
It doesn't go back far enough. Nice.
No, because that would have been like
Andy Marte traded by the Red Sox with Guillermo Mota. Yeah, this might be it's the Coco Crisp trade. You're absolutely right.
It was cool because the Victor Martinez trade was like Nick Hagedorn,
That's
Justin
right,
Masterson. Wasn't it Masterson?
Yep.
Who else was in that trade? There's one more player. Who was it? I can't remember who the other player was. This is gonna bug me. I need to look now. It was. Oh, do you remember? I should know this. Reliever from Rice, right-handed pitcher.
Oh, Bryce Cox. Jeez.
No, Brian Price. Other one.
Oh, the other one. That's right. I should have known that.
I should have known that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think one that the other one that comes to mind was the Espinoza for
Josh for Drew Pomerantz. That might be that one is one that did not turn out.
I don't think it turned out for either side.
For either side. I think at the time it was a bad trade.
It was a lot for a reliever. Granted, he had 2 years of control, but
they used him as a starter, but like
fair, yeah, you're right.
He wasn't a reliever for them, but he wasn't a good one, and that was predictable that he would.
But then they moved him to the bullpen, and didn't he have a really good year in the bullpen?
He did, but here's the other thing with that trade too. If you remember, is he was one of the guys that was back that year that the Padres were like hiding medical stuff.
Oh yeah.
And MLB gave the Red Sox the chance to like rework the deal, and they were just like, "Nah, it's cool." And it's like,
yeah, that was
what? Like, get another player or something, dude. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you know what another funny one is? The Cubs one for. Do you remember who this was for? It was Alan Webster, Ruby De La Rosa, and Ramel Flores. Do you remember who it was for?
Ramel Flores to the Cubs.
Wade Miley. Granted, they weren't as highly regarded at the time, but when they got those guys from the Dodgers, I remember being really high on Webster, and that one obviously didn't work out. But it is interesting looking back. Like, you can who's the most successful player that they've traded in recent memory? Like, it's probably
player that they have traded away. Because the other one that I was going to say, if you go back enough, is the Carl Pavano and
I forget who else they in the Sox prospects era, like the highest WAR player prospect they've traded. Is it Margot?
Probably.
Like, I'm trying to think of who,
because it's not Moncada, it's not Kopech.
No,
it's not Beeks. It's not. Oh, Rizzo.
Oh, it's Rizzo. It's definitely Rizzo. Yeah, you're right.
Jeez. Yeah, it's definitely Rizzo.
So, but he wasn't a top. It is that the Kimbrel trade, I guess. Or was that the Kimbrel trade? No,
Rizzo was the Gonzalez trade.
The Gonzalez trade. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely Rizzo.
And I mean, if you had KBO WAR, you get all the KBO WAR from Casey Kelly.
Yeah, because Raymond Fuentes never did. He's still playing though. I think he was in the WBC this
Yeah.
year. Yeah, Margot's like up to he's at 9.6 F4 right now for his
Yeah.
career. That's pretty good.
He's turned into a good player, man.
Yeah, but no, that's an interesting, nice trip down memory lane.
Yes. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. I also love it because like CNN's on the elevator at my work, and so I like see our friend John.
Yeah, Rizzo. It's definitely Rizzo. Rizzo's 36
it's
and
not
a
even
half
close.
WAR for his career. It's not close at all.
It's
yeah.
not.
Well, it's funny too though. The Padres traded him too. I forgot that he only played 49 games for them.
Yeah, and then they traded him to Chicago for who the hell they trade him to Chicago for? Or no, they traded
him to the Cubs.
It was the Cubs. Okay.
It was for Andrew Kashner, from ex-Red Sox legend.
That's a bad one.
Yeah,
that's a bad one. All right, our next email is from TD, who says, "Dear Chris and Ian, I was going through the Red Sox draft history and saw Bryant Zayas' name in the UDFA section, undrafted free agent. Has there been any information on why he signed as an undrafted free agent or why he hasn't played whatsoever? Just seemed odd to me. Zayas is in the Florida Complex Leagues. That's why he hadn't played yet this year.
Yeah, he's playing. He played second base, I think, the second game of the season.
Yeah, I hadn't played before the FCL season, but exactly. Right. Why he signed it? Because he wanted to sign. I don't know what there is to tell you. Some guys don't want to go to college. I think that's really all it comes down to. Oh, God. All right, our next email is from Sam, who says, I was listening to the most recent episode, and you mentioned how part of the reason for David Hamilton jumping a bit in your rankings is that his skill set is as an elite base runner has been made more valuable by the new rules in MLB. I was wondering if you had some thoughts on the push and pull of speed going up in value due to rule changes, but conversely, base running instincts likely being devalued due to the pitch clock. I think I don't agree with that statement.
Wait, can you repeat? I'm confused. Can you repeat it again? Saying that instincts, because of the pitch clock, you don't have as much time to think?
No, I think what he means is you don't need them or something, but I disagree with the premise completely.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how their home to first compares, but I think you have Hamilton and Duran both the 70 grade runners, so I imagine it's close. However, prior to this year, I think you would have agreed there was a massive gulf in their ability to steal bases in game. Interjection again, I think there still is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's telling that Duran, as fast as he is, like I'm gonna look up his
Well, there's more emails, so let me read the rest of it. Do you think this will change how teams evaluate talent and how young guys are coached now that instincts are significantly devalued? Yeah, I disagree. They're not devalued at all.
Like Jarren Duran is 94th percentile sprint speed, and he has 8 stolen bases this year.
Yeah, he doesn't steal bases well. Like it's just the thing. So I don't agree. A second quick one. I know you guys aren't necessarily huge draft evaluators, but I did want to ask if you were aware that there's a projected first round pick from Massachusetts for the first time in a while, a high school left-hander named Thomas White. I think he's at Amherst.
Nope. He's at Phillips Andover, I believe.
Oh, I meant Andover. Yeah, Phillips. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Do you know anything about him? Do you have any sense of whether he has the sort of traits the front office would consider spending high draft capital on? I know they've made their preference for position players in the first and second rounds pretty clear, but it's just fun to speculate. No idea. Maybe they will.
No, I do. I've talked to some people about him, and I almost went, but he ended up not. He wasn't going to pitch the day that I was going to go. But yeah, no, he's interesting. I don't see him as a fit for the Red Sox. They've shown no inkling to draft high school arms in the first round, and I can't see it. I think there are other teams far more interested on him. But no, it's definitely cool. Like it's great seeing Northeast baseball, especially like College World Series this year. They had 3 teams make it. I think BC, UConn, and the Northeastern all made the tournament.
Yep. All out at this point, right?
I believe so. Yeah. But there's a pretty good lefty from Rhode Island too, who's going to go in the top couple of rounds. So yeah, there's definitely, and obviously for next season, there's a kid at Northeastern, the center fielder, who's really impressive.
Yes. What's his name? It's like Castiglione, but it's not Castiglione.
No, it's like Mike Sirota or something, I think.
Okay.
I don't remember his name. But he's there's definitely like some good guys in the Northeast, and it's pretty cool. I'm interested to see what happens with Thomas White, because obviously it's a Vanderbilt commitment, but it seems like he's going to go play pro ball if you're going to get as much money as he likely is going to.
Yes, 100%. I don't even want to read the next question because I feel bad, but Rajiv sent us a question that says, if more minor injuries stack up and the team needs to make room on the 40 man, is Chris Murphy pitching his way into DFA consideration?
Oops.
Obviously not. Oops.
No, and well, no, I think though
I get why he asked the question.
No, it's a reasonable question, but I think it's also a good lesson into like you can't just judge everything by like their overall season stat line.
By
Like
their ERA.
a lot can change over the course of the year. They can make tweaks. Like I don't like, isolating like small sample things and being like,
Yes.
hey, in his last like 10 starts, but I do think it can be helpful in giving you some idea for why like, you're sticking with a guy or you think, someone is like they're moving them to the bullpen. Let's see how it plays. Like those type of guys, especially with pitchers, you're going to get a pretty long leash before they're going to make that move with someone who's that young, still and that early in their career.
Our next email comes from Oren. He's got a couple of quick questions, Ian. He's wondering what we think Casas' ceiling is as a major league player, especially regarding the offense and who's a good comp. Kind of a weird question to ask for a guy who just graduated. I mean, you've seen him in the major leagues. You can comp him to whoever you want to comp him to. He's a big left-hand hitting first baseman. Ceiling at this point, Ian, I don't think the ceiling has really changed. It's
no, like I mean, he's like
a Freddie Freeman clone, but that's like a stretch high ceiling.
I don't think he's Freddie Freeman's like is borderline.
Yeah, it's not Freddie Freeman.
It's just like it's a consistent everyday first baseman who hits like 260 and hits 25, 30 home runs a year.
Ceiling,
like that's yeah.
I think that's a ceiling.
260 to 275 with a
I could see a little better
370. Oh, I mean, I think asking for a better average is a stretch. Like, here's a point of reference. Like,
it would be less power. It would be less power.
What do you think Matt Olson's average is for the year?
280.
232.
Yeah. Yikes.
Matt Olson's considered one of the best first basemen in baseball, and he's hitting 232.
That's fair. Okay, I like
240 last year, 271. Like maybe Matt Olson is probably his ceiling. Like that's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yep. Yeah. His other question is, how do you see Abreu moving up in the system with Verdugo, Yoshida, Duran probably occupying the outfield for the next several years, hoping they extend Verdugo? I mean, who knows? There's a lot of time to figure that out.
I mean, it's one of those things you kind of just cross that bridge when you get there. Like if Abreu shows that he's an everyday guy, which I still think is up in the air, then you deal with it when it happens. Like Abreu still got a long way to go developmentally. That's not something you're really worried about or you're projecting for right now.
Our next email is from Mark. He says, "Hey guys, I've been really impressed with Luis Revelo's stats this year. And I have two questions about him. One, did the underlying metrics support his slash line? And then he says, I saw that Alex Spear mentioned in the Baseball America handbook that Ravelo only had one extra base hit from the right side of the plate last year. And when I sent this email, he's hitting 2 of 19 from the right side and 305 batting average from the left. He listed their full slash line, but he's hitting really well from the left side, not from the right side. At what point would you consider making him a full-time lefty? Thanks for all your work. Love the pod." It's an interesting question when you've got a guy like Ravelo, who it's not that I guess he's better from the left than the right. It's an interesting question in this case. This isn't like why don't they just have Gilberto Jimenez stop hitting from the left side? And it's like because he's fast, and that's the reason you want him to hit from the left side. Ravelo's not exactly a burner.
No, Alan Castro actually has similar splits. He's got a much better swing from the left side of the plate than the right side. It's one of those things that it's hard for us to say because we don't know what the organization is like seeing behind the scenes when they're working with them, what they think of their long-term, like how they project out what their models say for how those swings are going to play against more advanced pitching. Like they just have a lot more data points to work with. And
they're not making the decision based off of a slash line.
No. So I just like with guys like and Castro, I just because Castro is 245, 371, 389 against righties. He's 129, 229, 129 against lefties. So and then as Ravelo is 288, 403, 386 against righties, 148, 148, 296 against lefties. So it's like, I think that those guys are so young and still early in their career. Like it's not something you're going to think about for this season. It's hard. Like, I honestly don't think it's something you really consider until maybe they're pushing into the high minors. But realistically, it's hard for us to say because we don't have as much information when it comes to like how their swing is going to projects out model wise and things like that as like the organization does. So it's just kind of a wait and see. We'll see we'll see if they can make adjustments, and if they don't, I'm sure at some point it could become a talking point with the player.
As far as the underlying numbers on Ravello, Ian, I don't know if you've got those handy. I am looking.
Why? What was that part of the question?
Yeah, he asked if they that was the first question he asked. Is I don't know if those bear out
Yeah,
his
I mean,
numbers on the year.
they're
Yeah, oh,
okay.
here we are. The
Like,
the in zone
I mean, no,
misses. Okay, it's all okay.
yeah, I mean,
Not great against off speed, but
at the end of the day, like he's still super young. Like it's
yeah,
hard to, you're not going to read too much. Like a lot of, we talk about it a lot. Like there's a different scale for things like exavelo and these for a lot of like the bat ball metrics for the
yeah.
lower you get. Like it's kind of age dependent. So for
Hmm.
his age, like they're fine. For compared to obviously like if you're looking at them compared to like Bobby Dahlbeck, they're not good. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's okay. Like it it's not like Roman Anthony's, which really jump off the page.
yeah.
Ravellos are more in line with kind of what you expect with a guy his age.
The next email is from Drew, who says, your discussion on Cedar Rafaela and the changes he is working on at the plate, combined with my interest in how teams make promotion decisions, inspired me to think of this hypothetical. If Rafaela just straight up never improves his swing up decisions or approach, when do you promote him? I think the reason it's a particularly noteworthy question is because typically, if a prospect never manages to fix his most glaring weakness, that player won't become a major leaguer. Rafael, on the other hand, seems almost certain to get at least a shot in the majors, given his defense and athleticism. So, if the Red Sox have one particular thing they want to work on before promoting him and it never improves, how do you reconcile that with the flip side of his floor? I guess the elephant in the room answer here is that if they feel the AAA hitting staff is significantly better than the AA staff, they'd promote him when they feel that staff could do a better job. But I have a hard time believing it would be that much of a disparity. Good point. Hopefully, I've done a good job illustrating the scenario because I think it's a pretty interesting discussion, and I'm very curious to hear what you all may think. I think it's an interesting question, Ian. As I'm reading this, it comes to mind. I had asked about. We never really talked about who might be the next guys to get promotions. I would not be surprised to see Rafaela go up in like July. Just almost by just kind of has to. He's on the 40 man. He was at this level last year. He's been better as of late. The chase rate is going in the right direction. He's never going to be a 15% chase rate guy, right? Like he's not going to be the Nako Kavadas 15% chase rate guy. You do want to see better swing decisions. I think if it's going in the correct direction, that's a good time to promote him. I don't think there's any chance he stays in Portland through the whole year.
He's
right?
He's over 500 plate appearances in Portland for his career now.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
I think
lot.
honestly, if they promoted him next week, I would not be terribly surprised.
No, but this is the thing. It's like I think it's just when he checks certain
They're thin
boxes.
too. That's the thing.
What? Oh yeah, but I think it's just when he checks certain boxes, like with his swing decisions and his approaches, that's what's holding him back, and that's when they're comfortable that they're by moving him up, they're putting him in a position where he still can succeed. I think that's when we'll see it.
Yeah,
Because the last thing you want to do is like have him get going in Portland, push him up too soon, and he'll just go there and just really struggle and get
yeah.
pitching.
That's the key thing is, do they think he is ready to go to Worcester and not just completely fall flat on his face?
Because he's still 22. Like, there's no need to rush him. Like, honestly, if he spends the entire season at Portland, that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, it's not ideal for 40-man roster considerations having a guy who's kind of like a developmental player like he is, but you can carry at least one of those guys. And like, I just think that it's more about the player and
All right, our next question comes from Vin near DC, who says, I've seen Kylie's revised rankings with Roman Anthony moving up to number 49 in MLB. What is he maybe seeing that Sox prospects may be missing? He notes that Anthony has quote, Anthony has one of the lowest chase and swing rates in the minors to go with the best age-adjusted exit velos in the minors, a strong bat-to-ball foundation and athleticism to be a solid right fielder, end quote. That's all good and fine, but his SP ranking is number 9 in the system and number 9 for one team versus 49 across all 30 teams. Just seems like a big gap. Thanks in the door of the podcast, Vin near DC. First of all, obviously, we've since moved him up to number 6, but I think the point still stands, and I think we talked about it. I think it's the ground ball
process. Rate. Well, it's also a different process, though. It's like if you're, we're when we're looking at the organization, like we're seeing the same stuff he is. Like we have those numbers too. It's just I've gotten reports that have him as like not that scouts don't think he's a top 50 guy. Like that's not a consensus opinion. Like,
oh, and I don't think he's saying it is. I think he's saying,
well, but he's saying, what did we miss? Like we see all this stuff too. Like that's why he's sixth in the system. Like for us, we're taking that into account. But like we're not, you can rank a guy wherever you want. Like, and in Kylie's process, and like I can, as I said, I can understand why he gave him there. If you truly, going on projection and upside, there's definitely a top 50 talent in there. But for me, I haven't got the feedback or seen enough to be able to put him there yet for me. Like I still think he's still raw. He's still got a long way to go developmentally, and a lot can go wrong along the way. But also a lot could go right. And if you told me, by this time next year, if he was a top 3 guy in the system, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all if by the end of the season he's a top 3 guy in the system. But I just need to see more. Like the underlying metrics are definitely very encouraging, but it's, there are other, and I've actually made this point to you guys. There are other guys who have really good underlying metrics that we don't even have in our top 60. Like that's, you need there's more than just that. You can't just go off those. So
it felt
and I'm not saying,
very...
I'm not saying Kylie obviously has a really detailed process. He's talking to scouts too, but just the feedback we've been getting from the guys I've talked to, and we're not ready. Like we have him 6 in the system. Like if I was, probably I would guess he'd be, top 100 to 150 prospect if I was to go out and do a full, like, top whatever prospect list of all organizations, with a chance to move into the top 100. But right now I think that's just, and the other thing too is like top 50 is it's like a nice number and everything. But when you're talking about like an FV, like, so Kylie has him as a 50, we have him as a 45. Like there's not a wide gap there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to look, like it's not like it'd be one thing if like he was a top 10 prospect on Kylie's list and we had him 6th in the system, then it's a little different. Like if he was like, oh, he's a 60, but like, you can get different opinions on different guys. Like you're going to talk to scouts who think he's a 50. You're going to talk to scouts who think he's a 45. You're going to talk to scouts maybe think he's a 40. Like, there's not a lot of consensus there. So, I'm fine with it. Like I completely get it. The underlying metrics can definitely warrant it, but I think he's not there yet for me.
That's where I'm at too. Next question from John B. He says, coming into this season, Adam Duvall had played more games and innings at first base than Justin Turner. He'd played first base more recently than Turner had, and his defensive stats at first look a little better too. My question, if Duvall can play first when he comes back, wouldn't it make more sense to send down Casas instead of Durant? John B. Well, he sent this on May 25th. And there was a point recently where I was wondering about if Casas was going to get sent down if he didn't turn it around, but he's been hitting well.
But why?
Lately.
Like he had a bad April. Like it was 1 month. I don't like,
because the line didn't look good.
But stop looking at the season stat line, people. Like,
I hear you.
Like,
I hear you.
Kids, Brian Barrett, good friend of the site.
Yes, you were on his show recently.
Yeah,
I drove you into his arms.
Great podcast from the Ringer. Check it out, Off the Pike. I was on there. It was really good. We had a fun discussion. Since the start of May, Casas is 10th in all of baseball in barrel percentage. He's 32nd in average exit velocity, 31st in max exit velocity, 19th in walk rate with a 120 WRC plus, which is like above average. 46.8% hard hit, 256, 363, 442, 805 OPS. If you're getting that from your first baseman, you're very happy with that. Like, obviously his season line doesn't look like that because in April he was bad, 133, 283, 293. But like, I don't get the rush to demote him because, he's hitting under 200 in beginning of June. Like, yes, he had a terrible April. We're well aware of that. He was getting much better in May and it was impressive. Like, just patience. Like, there's no need to even think about that. Like, it's
and I mean, look,
the Red Sox, and also the Red Sox have made it clear Duvall's not a consideration for first base. Like, remember when Ramel Tapia was taking ground balls at first base? How'd that work out? Like, they're not there. There's no like, there's no one else to take that job. Like, it's Casas's job. And if in September he's still hitting under 200, maybe then we'll talk about it in the offseason. It'll be a talking point, but I wouldn't worry about it right now.
By the way, Justin Turner plays first base so that Masataka Yoshida can DH. And Yoshida DHing does not work with keeping both Turner and Duvall in the lineup. So that's the riddle you have to solve. Because if you're playing Duvall at first base, now you're just sitting Turner, which is not what they signed Turner to do. So like we discussed the decision of who's going to go down.
Justin Turner's also like they're not going to sit their 2-hitter or 3-hitter.
No, they're
like,
not. They're not going to. That's what I'm saying is they're not going to sit him.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm ready for? Kike Hernandez, part-time player.
Yeah, that's what he should be. Like I think he'd be a great bench, like a bench platoon bat. Like
bench plus. He's bench plus, right? Yeah. He starts 3 games a week.
Like the roster is going to start making a lot more sense when they get Duvall back and they get Trevor Story back. Like Chang. Obviously Trevor Story's still like a month away. Well, but when Story's back, Chang becomes redundant. So
so Chang comes back and he pushes Pablo Reyes out.
But Chang comes back, he's going to be your everyday shortstop. Then that means Hernandez will be playing more second base. Duvall will be your everyday center fielder. Yep. Like things just start to make more sense. Like, yeah. I know the defense hasn't been great, but like the injuries have definitely impacted them there.
Agreed. All right. Our next question comes from Forrest Perkins, who says, I'd love to hear a little about a couple pitching standouts to start the season who Sox prospects does not have highly ranked. Isaac Coffey, Jose Ramirez, and Angel Bastardo. Bastardo seems to be the one with the highest ceiling and best stuff. What about the others? Are they old for the level they're playing at, benefiting from playing weak lineups? Thanks. Thanks. You guys are the best. Here's to a Man City treble. Blah.
Great email.
We talked about Bastardo. We talked about Coffey. Jose Ramirez, a guy who he's older than you think he would be for a guy who's making his full season debut.
5th year, I think. 5th year in the system. Yeah,
he's been around for a while because he spent 3 years in the DSL, 4 years, including 2020. So he spent his age 17, 18, and 20 seasons in the DSL. And then last year was in the Florida Complex League, and this year he's in Salem. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of interesting, but I mean, again, it's the rankings are not power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, I also have
he could be a future reliever. I
have him in my top 60. I think.
Yeah, do we not have him in the 60? I thought he made the 60.
I don't know. I know I have him in mine. It's like he does one thing really well.
He made the top 60 this month.
Oh, did he?
I'm fairly certain.
He does one thing really well, and that's get ground balls. Like he throws a power sinker that gets a ton of soft contact, and no, he's not in the top 60.
He's 54th.
Oh, he's 54th. I missed that. So he is, but yeah, he does one thing really well, but he does it really, really well, and that's gets a ton of he limits hard contact, gets ground balls, and I mean it's definitely an interesting profile. Like it's easy to forget he's still only 22 years old, even though he's been in the system 5 years. So if you're a guy who's like 92, 93, 94 with a power sinker. Obviously got to tighten up the strike rate, throw more strikes, but it's definitely an interesting profile. It's find that consistency with command and secondaries, and there might be a decent reliever there.
Joe asks, how do the Red Sox determine rehab assignments for injured players? Can you talk a little about the process on why certain players start off at different levels when they're on a rehab assignment, and how is that determined? Yeah, sure. I mean, the most obvious one, if you've got a major league player who has only been out for like a month or two or whatever, it's Worcester most ideally, but sometimes if Worcester's on the road, they're going to send a guy to Portland instead if Portland is home, so that they don't travel, so that they're nearby, so that you can go see them. I think when he sent this, part of the reason he sent this might have been that Yu Chang got sent to Portland while Adam Duvall and Christian Arroyo were sent to Worcester. And I think that's just a matter of like, there's only so many at-bats and innings to go around when you've got the redundancy of Arroyo and Chang. And I think the fact that Chang, when he went back on his rehab assignment, going to Worcester kind of shows like that was just, you can't really have 3 rehab guys on the same AAA roster. It's just, those guys need to play that are usually on that roster. So you just need to split them up a little bit. So that's about it. As far as guys who are working back from longer term injuries, they're probably going to work their way up below minors. They'll start at the complex. If you're talking like a major league pitcher coming back from Tommy John, they'll throw for a while in Salem, maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks. They'll move up to Greenville. They'll move up to Portland. They'll move up to Worcester. They're just working their way back, building up their pitch count, building up their pitches, things like that. So it's just a matter of working their way up through the system. So thanks for the question. Next email, Ian. Very simple email from Dan, who says, is Lugo a left fielder going forward? Is that his most likely path to a major league job?
I mean, he's gonna have to hit regardless of where he is, but
Yes.
yeah, it seems like left field is his ultimate destination, which yeah,
Suboptimal.
no, it's not ideal. I mean, getting pushed off the infield is always tough, but I saw him at third base and it's okay. Like, it's not great. Um, he's obviously this season, I didn't realize he has 6 errors in 166 innings, so 850 fielding percentage is pretty low. But yeah, I mean, it seems like left field is probably where he's going to end up for now.
Final question, finally, Ian, is from David B., who is curious about what we've heard about Cedar Rafaela's work at the plate over the last couple of weeks. For the most of the first couple of months, it sounded like he was working on the approach, but while he was seeing more pitches, you didn't seem impressed that he was actually developing a better process. More recently, he seems to be impacting the ball more. Do you think he's getting to the point where he, quote, is what he is, end quote, and you can just let him go and play his game and take what you can get?
No, I mean, I think we've talked about that. Like, he's still pretty aggressive. Like, compared to last year, he's at 3.52 pitches per PA. Last year when he was in Portland, he was 3.62, so it's lower than last year. Chase rate is also lower though, so I think he is being a little more aggressive early in the count. But yeah, I'm not ready to give up and say it is what it is at this point. Like, I'm still, the odds of him taking that major step forward are low, but given, as I said, how good his defense is, you want to hold out hope and give him that chance to show that progression as long as possible without rushing him and pushing him to a level where you think he would be exposed.
All right. And David's final question is a bonus Blaze Jordan question. He just wants to know what we see at the timing around a potential promotion to Portland, considering his at-bats at high A, potential improvements beyond the numbers, and playing time important. And I think that's an interesting point about playing time in Portland, because you've got an infield there where you've got right now Mydroth is your everyday third baseman and Nico Cavadas is your everyday first baseman. I think they're going to want to keep getting those guys at bats. That said, who are they? They don't really have a regular DH, so I think they do have room.
No, there's definitely room for him, but
so I don't think that's a consideration really. They can move guys around and deal with it, and he can primarily play first like he was earlier in the year in Greenville.
Yeah, I think he strikes me as someone we see promoted like around the All-Star break.
June 1. Or it's not June 1, July 1.
Yeah, July. Like in July. Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometime in July he goes up.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, thank you all for the questions again. Podcast.
Also, we had a resolution to the home run ball.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah. The Ellie got it back, but the kid negotiated and got all his boys signed baseballs and photos with De La Cruz. So
there's
like 10 of them. So
oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a whole squad. So if he was holding out just because he wanted his boys to be able to partake, I respect that. That's like pretty sweet. I mean, he got a sign. It looks like he got a signed bat too. So at the end of the day, pretty cool. Like, if the kid is willing to as I said, like, it's his ball. Like, he can do whatever he wants with it, but just as we've seen with these negotiations, never take the first offer, because they're always willing to do more.
Yeah, of course. That is literally my line of work. So,
but no, I'm glad it's cool that Ellie has it back, because now we don't have to worry about like the situation with the Pujols home run ball or any of that, or the Judge one, like any of that stuff. So it's cool that he's got it, because if he's as good as we think he could be, a lot of people think he could be, that's going to be a pretty expensive piece, and it's cool that it's in his personal collection.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We very much appreciate it. As always, of course, if you can support us by rating or reviewing us. Follow us on Twitter, by the way. You can follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. Follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. Follow the site on Twitter and Instagram at Sox Prospects. We want to shout out all of our supporters on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. Pledge a certain amount per episode, get some neat perks. I've got to put up the rankings perk stuff this week. It's been a crazy week at work. But we appreciate everyone who supports us there, including our $5 level Patreon supporters, who this month includes John McGee, Nicholas Lenson, Paul Manish, James P. McMahon, Jim Tuttle, Brian Rose, Jake O'Donnell, Gerardo Ian Tosca, Sean Guinan, Kyle Sanborn, and our two newest $5 level supporters, John Hershey and Chance Stevenson. Thank you for joining the crew, gentlemen. And thank you to all of our supporters on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. We want to thank Ludlow Thieves for our intro and outro music. Find them wherever it is that you listen to your tunes. They're on there. Thank all of you for listening. Thank you, Ian, for bearing with me while I was out of the country. We are now free to move about the podcast. So thank you all for listening. We'll be back in your drums. It won't be 3 weeks again. We'll be back soon. Thanks, everyone.